Hey guys, we'll talk about my HCDI trade. These are all longs. I longed it in the morning. Again, strong market. Pretty much at market open today, I was just clicking through charts, looking for stocks with volume, bid support, and good pre-market structure that might lead to a push, right? So um, I had a couple candidates. HCDI was definitely one of them. We'll go over why. But essentially, HCDI had a 114 bid on the book map that was holding the stock up. And then at market open, they started throwing up a lot of bids with volume pushing the stock. So, I really just, I learned on low floats, I really like to wait for some type of dip candle. If something just goes straight up, I'm not in it. I usually like to see something look like it's going straight up, knife really hard, and then I pay attention to the knife, right? Because we'll talk about how I always talk about how knives create an empty order book to the upside. So when you get quick knives that go straight down, the entire order book to the upside is very, very thin, and it's very easy to throw up some bids at the bottom of the knife and then rotate it. Especially in a strong market, that's a very common thing to do. I actually sold some at high day, and then I held through the entire high day clear out because I knew this was a high day clear out right here. And high day clearouts in strong markets, especially in the morning, don't work most of the time. They have lower odds of working, especially on, HCDI is a former manipulated stock. You have to remember your former manipulated stocks. Like HCDI has done some crazy manipulated stuff, and when it pops with volume, it's likely to do manipulated stuff in the future. So I saw the high day clear out, I saw the deep pullback, and like I said, these deep pullbacks, man, like you get high day with a 20% pullback, like shorts just chase this so hard, right? And especially in strong markets, shorts try to apply their weak market patterns, like a market open high day clear out. They try to go in really heavy. Um, they know the stock is, a fader, obviously it fades. So they try to get in. And yeah, they get the confirmation they want, creates a bunch of empty space on the book, and rips. So we'll look at the book map on this. I should have added on this. I don't know why. I have this kind of mindset of like not messing up my average. It's a kind of a loser mindset. I really need to just start smacking more. like I have some long friends. Mikey Underdog. He sees new bids come in. He just he just starts like doubling, tripling up. And that's really the way to scale, right? I really have to get in that mindset. But I just held through my average. Um, Took some off on the secondary squeeze. We'll see how the squeeze happened. And then once it knifed with the bids kind of disappeared, so I full sold it. But I was like, hey, they're doing another quick pullback squeeze, quick pullback. These like 20% dumps have huge, but in strong markets have huge, huge, huge potential, especially in the stocks trading 1 million, 2 million shares a minute. To be massive rigs, right? Massive, massively manipulated. So we'll see the book map reads here. I relonged it, sold into the high day squeeze, and knifed again. I sold into that knife, and then I tried one more time. They actually threw up a massive bid here, and I longed it into it, and then they pulled. You can actually see in the book map they pulled the bid before it knifed, so which actually becomes like a nice short. But I sold my long, and then I thought I'm like, all right, they pulled this down only. Um, Usually in strong stocks that go down only for like an hour like this, this is like a 25-30% pullback from high day. They like to rotate it on the backside. And sometimes, like we saw yesterday, sometimes they squeeze to new high days, and sometimes they just swipe the backside and pull. So it's like, all right, let me wait for a backside swipe, maybe 170s, 180, this 180 guy, maybe two, maybe the market's so strong this gets to $2, like it just does like some crazy $2 move. I let the volume and I let the book tell me what it's going to do, right? So I see this push here, and this push fails at VWAP and pulls back down. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're painting some VWAP, right? Because I know on midday stocks, like longs that eventually come back up usually take some time. I would say at least like an hour and sometimes 2 or 3 hours. Like it could take, like, that's why a lot of times you don't want to short these quick little pops because the better short comes later, right? You have to, like midday, you have to learn to be really, really patient and this is why a lot of shorts fail midday, is because they see the weakness and they feel so much FOMO that they're trying to like aggressively chase these bounces. Um, so it ends up and that you always risk having not great averages and getting squeezed on the backside unless your risk is really big. Um, that's a big risk that you take, right? I always learned that the best shorts come, especially we get this clean higher low. You got your higher low kind of bear flag structure, right? And the reason I shorted this was another book map. This was what's great. Like normally, I would have waited for like a 1.8 squeeze, but here I made a pure book map read on. They stacked a bunch of asks right here. It wasn't just one; it was like 5 or 6 of them, all in the 160s, and there was even more higher. And we got our little bullish bull flag. It's a ends up being a bear flag, but you get your bullish push into those bids, and there's no buying. There's just no buying into sorry, not bids, into these ask in the 165, 167, 168. There's all these guys stacked here, and there's just a lack of buying. And I'm like, all right, like this push kind of has to go. Let me just take a short my shares in the 160s, and risk those asks. And I got some nice confirmation. I took a little bit off here because they flashed a 30K bid down here. So I took a little bit off, and then that ended up going nowhere. And then I covered into the 5-minute 200, which ended up being dumb because it ended up fading. It ended up fading another like 10-15% from my entry, and it's probably gonna fade in the after hours too. So I'm learning when markets get like this that these crazy like 100 200% runners have these crazy fades. Like so many stocks that ran yesterday and 2 days ago and today are fading like 50, 60, 70%, and you could just hold and hold and hold and hold. You just have to not. The thing is, you just can't get caught on the front side, right? It's very easy to get caught. It's very easy to lose 10, 15, 20, 30% on the front side, and then like you're trying to catch like the big fade, right? So, not easy to do. Most shorts actually don't make money in these types of markets at all. So HCDI, let's go over the book really quick. There we go. So here's the long at market open. So here's that bidder. So we get these bidders in the pre-market, right? 114, 113, 112, and these guys are holding the whole pre-market, right? Then market open happens, and they throw a 60,000 share bid at the bottom. Now, I don't really like smacking at 9:30. Like, I like to see what the volume's looking like and seeing what the bid support's looking like. So I see this on my screen. I see like, oh man, HCDI is like, it has good volume, then even more volume, and then at 9:33, this is when the volume really started picking up. It does this huge knife, and I notice this bid at 122, and it starts to pop, and I see more bids follow it up, and I just start smacking. I was like, all right, like I'll go in on this knife, and you could tell when you get this was at 9:33. It goes from 136 to 122. Look how empty the book is up to 140. This is an empty book, and it's knifing in the bids. Here's a bid, and we get follow-up bids. So I was like, oh, all right, I'm just gonna, like, the market's so strong, I was like, I'll just go in here. Sometimes it's a good idea to wait for, like, the support crack. You maybe it cracks all the way down to 110, consolidates for 5 minutes under VWAP, and then rotate. There's a lot of different things that can happen. I did like the constant bid support. I liked how this knife was, you could tell it was instantly reclaiming. I saw the bids. I'm like, all right, let me just go in. And then I actually just held straight through high day because I'm like, market's so strong, I'll probably just go straight up. And yeah, we just get some market orders. I see this low volume pullback. I'm like, all right, let me see what happens here. Get more market orders like this, and then I see bids coming in, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna go straight to high day. And then it pushes to high day. I'm like, all right, let me just take some off because that's I longed like 129 to 160. You can actually see the bid start to pull, and this is the high day clear out short trap, right? So if we go to the chart, you could see. Here's your high day clear out, right? This candle, and we get this big knife, this huge knife. So any short who smacked this is just like in the money, like, oh man, I nailed it. But yeah, man, I just learned high day clearouts in strong markets. Now, there will be a time, and who knows if this is next week or 2 weeks from now or a month from now, where morning high day clearouts will start to work, and that'll be a good sign that the market is getting weaker. When patterns that have trap shorts in strong markets start working again, because that's how the market stays really dynamic. That's how no one side always makes too much money at once, because price action that worked before will start to not work, and it'll constantly be this ebb and flow, and that's why you always have to be paying attention to what types of moves are being made. And then the book map makes it simple because um, you can see confirmation of like, okay, I think the market's still strong. Here's a high day clear out. What do? Oh, sorry, you can't see this. What do? So high day clear out, pullback, bids right here, small little bounce, pullback, and then it's just like you can long straight into these bidders. Like, of course, you don't want to chase too high, but on these pullbacks, it's great because you can long in the 130s here, risking these guys holding the stock up. And look at the imbalance, man. Like, there's no orders on the book from these bidders up to high days. So and we're in a strong market, and this is a potential short trap. Shorts are gonna be hitting high day clearouts. So it becomes a fantastic long pattern, right? So we get a big squeeze, and what's really happened? Funny, they put like a 70,000K ask up here. But I was like, oh yeah, let me see how the stock reacts to this ask, because just in my personal experience, I've on really strong stocks, I've shorted into stocks I've had big ask before. Like, oh, there's a 100K ask, I'm gonna short because a 100K ask is weak and this thing's extended, right? And I short it, and then I get squeezed. I just had that happen to me before, so I kind of want to say like, all right, like if this knife's straight down, I'll just get out. If this knife's through like 150, I'll just okay, whatever, I'll just get out. But like, let me see what happens with this ask. It just kind of like, there's not a lot of bids following this up, but it was staying up. It was just staying up here. I was like, all right, it's staying up here. And then they just completely took the entire thing out and squeezed it. I was like, great. And then I sold some up here. So, and then as you see, there's no bids following this up. And I was still long. And this is what's hard about being long. It's very hard to full sell the long up here and go short, right? Because like, for example, I saw this ask at 192 get filled, and I saw zero continuation, right? Big ask, no continuation, and then a lack of bids, right? But I was long, so it's hard to like, okay, I'm going to full sell my long and full size short, and like, it's really hard to do that. In the moment, a lot of times you have to just pick a bias. Like, I'm long bias, okay, I'm going to go long and make long decisions. And then the same thing with short. Okay, I'm short bias, I'm going to make short, you kind of have to pick a bias a lot of times. That kind of determines. And then I longed here. So again, we get the quick pullback. I see all the empty space outside of this one guy, and this one guy doesn't super matter, because if this guy gets broken, then there's nothing but empty space up here. Again, and I'm like, man, the market's so strong, this will probably work again. And again, we get the same pattern where there's bidders, and when I saw these 60K, by the way, this was the same size as the guy at market open, by the way. These 56K follow-up bidders, I just went in here. I'm just going again because there's bidders walking this up and there's all this empty space. And then I sold into this push because, as you see, there's no bids following this up. This type of move just ends up being like the final short squeeze. They're just like squeezing all these shorts who got in here, squeeze them again, and then that's what strong markets do. They squeeze shorts 2, 3, 4 times, and then they pull, right? And you can see this was just market slappers. The rigger just probably slapped this into the liquidity above 2, and then they just dumped. No bids, and they dumped. And then I sold on the dump. And then here's that, by the way, here's that 50K bid that I longed into, empty book up. I was like, oh, cool, like 190 is like the next ask level. Like, this is all empty. Let me just long once, because now it's getting pretty extended. I'm like, let me just long 170 to 190, and look what they did. pull the bid, and they dumped it. And once I saw them pull the bid, I'm like, I'm out. And me and a couple guys in my room, my Discord room, which is information down below, by the way, also got out when we saw this. And I was like, all right, let me wait for some type of backside structure, right? And then oh, sorry. So this is the backside structure. And my short ended up being, so this is that VWAP push that got rejected. This actually wasn't that bad because we see this 167 guy and this 169 guy. No bids found us up. This actually wasn't a bad short. I was actually a little mad at myself for not taking this. So I was like, but I wanted to wait longer. You know, that's what my bias came from. Like, okay, let me just maybe this is just like a lower high paint, and maybe they come back and squeeze up to this 180 guy, right? That's kind of what I was thinking. So I was like, okay, there's a bunch of higher lows. You know, we can see from the chart. Sorry, see from the chart. Here, there's a bunch of higher lows forming, right? They're soaking on the low volume, and I'm waiting for some type of backside push, right? Because the market's strong, that's what I'm expecting. So then on the book, we start to get a push here, and something really interesting happened. They threw up a 50K bid, but I didn't want to long because now I'm starting to get short bias. Like, I don't want to go in long here, and then you having to make the decision to full sell my long and then go short. Like, it's really hard to do that. Like, now I'm just in a backside short bias type of mode. And look at this. You can see the bids here. I mean, the ask here. 13K, 20K, 15K. There's like stacks, stacks, stacks. And then outside of this one guy, there's the 150 guy who's been holding this up, and then it's just empty. You know, it's very empty to the downside. So I'm like, I saw this push into these asks. I'm like, all right, let me see what happens right here, right? And I knew 165 was the first level, and then we had 166 and 167. I'm like, all right, man, they threw up a huge bid. Huge bid should lead to pushing. And then I see this 162 guy get filled, you know, on big buying volume. And then I see 165, and I'm just watching the tape, and it's just stalling, stalling, stalling. Like, a few orders start going through, stalling, stalling, and then I just started shorting. This is actually me shorting this, by the way. This is me. I was like, because, you know, if I want to short this, I want my average to be near these asks, right? Because he's ultimately, like, because on backside plays, when I'm shorting backside, on plays like this, you know, in strong markets, you risk, you know, stocks maybe pulling back and doing some crazy 30-40% squeeze. So I like to keep my risk really tight, which means I want to be shorting in the asks that I think are going to be resistance. So I have tight risk. And I also tend to get a lot more scalpy, right? Even though obviously this ends up fading like 35% for my entry. You know, when the range is this big, it's insane. You could short at the bottom, and then it still drops like 35%. It's just so insane. I really was. I just took the 5-minute 200. I really wasn't expecting it. But yeah. Long story short, it seems like this guy got sold into. But if we zoom in, this guy pulled this 50,000 shares right before it cracked. He pulled his entire order, and when I saw this, I was like, "This is going down, dude!" Like that was a great little manip move that they did there. That's honestly what I thought. And you can't see this because the orders were on Arca, and my DX feed doesn't show it. But there's a bidder here. I covered some, but even though there's a bidder down here, you know, I said in my Discord, I was like, you know, there's still this 145 support level that they can crack, right? And ultimately, what I like about Bookmap is, like, as long as these asks up here hold, like, they can always abuse the empty space. What matters is the ask. That's what matters. Like, this is my risk. Like, you know, rigged market maker is just going to move the stock through this space. And ultimately what he did is he threw up 27,000 shares on the bid, moved it through the empty space, and then he, you know, the bid wasn't there anymore, and it went straight down. And I was like, oh, cool, that's a great little backside move. And then I just covered into the 5-minute 200, and then went down another 15%. So what do I know? So anyway, HCDI, interesting play, interesting stock, some decent reads. Yeah, you guys have a good weekend. It was crazy. This week was nuts. So you guys have a good one. See ya.